Welcome, everyone. We're here because we're bringing to you, in partnership with Premier Collectibles, signed copies of the new MeatEater Outdoor Cookbook, wild game recipes for the grill, smoker, camp stove, and campfire.
Now, Steve, you've recorded 400 plus podcast episodes. You've filmed more than 100 episodes of television. You've appeared live, you've given talks. Do you have any stories that you haven't yet told?
I thought about this long and hard, and I have a story that I got a story I've told 1,000 times. I have a story I don't think I've told in its entirety publicly. So this is just a story that I've told, but haven't told. It's what gave me faith in America. I mean, I was born patriotic, but it's what really made me take great faith in America.
Quick rundown, rapid fire questions, and I think we should mention that we're selling signed copies of the MeatEater Outdoor Cookbook at signedoutdoorcookbook.com.
That's correct. Go to signedoutdoorcookbook.com and you can get a brand new, brand spickety new signed copy of the MeatEater Outdoor Cookbook, which is a follow-up. So we had a very popular fish and game cookbook, and this is the follow-up book that we've been working on for years. It's beautiful. Yeah, I'm not gonna show you all the pages now because I want to keep it enticing. Gorgeous book.
So we've got rapid fire questions here. You've got 60 seconds. Don't overthink this. Just give me the first answer or story that comes to mind. Are you ready? Favorite color?
I have none.
Least favorite color?
I have none.
Favorite food?
Hamburgers. Well, favorite dish? Hamburgers. If I had to eat,
It says favorite food.
If I had to eat one thing the rest of my life, I'd just eat nothing but mule deer. But if I had a preparation, I would have burgers the rest of my life.
Best trip you've taken?
River trips in South America.
Propane or charcoal?
We talking convenience or what you really should do?
It's a rapid fire question.
Propane for convenience, charcoal when I mean it.
So you flip-flop. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
No. Hot dog is a hot dog. I would put it under Americana before I would put it under Sando.
What other foods does the category Americana encompass?
Burgers.
Favorite hobby outside of hunting and fishing?
Reading about hunting and fishing.
Biggest pet peeve?
Dude, I mean, you got an hour? Lately, my pet peeve is this. Lately, my latest pet peeve is when you tell someone a thing, like this whole thing in food where you're taking food now, and you turn it into what its constituent parts are. The other day, a guy says, what's your favorite breakfast? Not even in this kind of format. What's your favorite? I said, I like eggs and toast in the morning, I guess. Like, I eat a lot of eggs and toast. Oh, carbs. Do you know what I mean? Like, so someone says, hey, I got to pull in and buy gas. Oh, fossil fuels. Do you know what I mean? That whole tendency.
Yeah, I thought you were talking about like the culinary trend of like, this is a deconstructed cheesecake.
No, the other day, my little boy, my 9-year-old boy, I'm not kidding you, last night, my 9-year-old boy, we sit down to eat, my 9-year-old boy says, is there any starch? I'm not kidding you, dude. We had cobia, seared cobia, grouper cheeks, broccoli, iceberg lettuce with ranch on it, and he says, is there any starch? That's my pet peeve.
Did you ask him why he asked that?
And no, because you said that, there's not gonna be. If you had said, can I have some bread? I'd be like, yeah, that's fine.
Most embarrassing moment?
My first book, The Scavenger's Guide to Haute Cuisine, I think it got more reviews than purchases. I made up for it in the end. It's a slow burn, sure. But initially that was humiliating, dude. Yeah. I was like, how could there be more people wrote about it than bought it? It doesn't even make any sense. It was like an inverse correlation to like coverage to purchases.
Irrational fear?
I don't have any.
Rational fear?
Lately I've been afraid of avalanches a lot, but I've been trying to get boned up on avalanches. Ask Seth. Like if I'm driving and I see dangerous activity, dangerous driving, I'll be like, that's dangerous driving. If I see dangerous boating, I'll think that's dangerous boating. If I see dangerous canoeing down a river, I'll be like, that's dangerous. But when it comes to avalanches, I'm not as fine-tuned on what is a dumb move in the mountains. From an avalanche perspective, so that's my rational fear.
First thing you do when you wake up?
I hit brew on my coffee pot because I like to rig it. If I'm home.
You don't have a timer?
I never thought about that. Probably. There's a lot of buttons I haven't touched. That's what you do? No, I get up, go over there, hit the button because I get it rigged up the night before. I hit the button, then I go back, brush my teeth, and then go back in and get some.
Favorite childhood memory?
I got my front tooth shot out by a blowgun. Hurt like hell, but it's a good story. What are memories for, if not for telling?
Guilty pleasure.
I don't have any. I quit drinking. That was one. Yeah, I had one, but I don't have it any anymore.
Now, this might be a bit of a
You didn't
lead-in.
ask me about my favorite national park.
Oh, I cut that out because I figured you didn't like
I don't like
parks.
national parks.
I just deleted that from my copy.
Well, you deprived me my chance to say I don't like them.
Favorite national park?
Don't have any.
Really?
No, I like national forests. I'm a national forest man.
Well, this is perhaps a bit of a leading question, but what's the best cookbook you've used recently?
You're going to think I'm lying when I tell you this. It was our fish and game cookbook, our own. In fact, my little boy, not my little one, my older one, went with his buddies, his two buddies, and they caught 3 trout on Saturday. And they took their 3 trout home, and they wanted to make smoked trout. So I had them work up the brine for hot smoked trout in our wild game cookbook. And then my kid was sort of surprised when he realized that my name was on the book and thought that was interesting. And had a handful of questions about how that came to be.
But I do want to remind you all that autographed copies of the book are available now at signedoutdoorcookbook.com.
Where was that again, Randall?
signedoutdoorcookbook.com. That's signedoutdoorcookbook.com. Now, you're only signing a limited amount of copies, so I'd recommend that everyone go out now to reserve your book. I want to hear a little bit about how this cookbook is different from the previous ones you've written.
This cookbook's different than the previous ones because, as the name tells you, it's the outdoor cookbook.
What does that mean?
Well, I'll tell you. The previous cookbook was called the MeatEater Fish and Game Cookbook. All right? Recipes and techniques for every hunter and angler. Now, that was designed more for in-home, in-kitchen use. The outdoor cookbook is designed for outdoor use. When we were working on it, we had this working title. We didn't want to be using it because it was too cutesy, maybe. It was from the backyard to the backcountry, meaning whether it's outdoor cooking, running the gamut from like cooking burgers in your backyard, smoking a ham in your backyard, backyard barbecue, backyard deep frying, okay, all the way to what you'd eat on a mountain living out of a backpack. So it's like the full array. But it also winds up being like something of a history lesson and something of a geography lesson because it carries a lot of techniques for outdoor cooking that span back to the Ice Age, okay, that span to things we know about Native American cooking styles, to stuff I've encountered in Vietnam or in Mexico or whatever, like different ways that people handle food outside, from using everything from like a Weber grill that you bought down at Ace Hardware to homemade contraptions, like how to make your own cooking apparatuses out of crazy stuff. Could be like recycled things you found laying around, how to turn those into cool cookers. How to cook with nothing but native materials, meaning that willow, limbs, rocks, just how to cook everything outside. So it really covers you from parties to just like totally wild, crazy experiments. It's the full thing, from the Ice Age to the present, from the backyard to the backcountry.
Can you tell us a little bit about your collaborator, Christa Ruin?
The first thing I'll tell you about Christa is her last name's Ruane, and we've known each other for a long, long, long time. I first knew Christa when we started the show MeatEater. MeatEater was sort of a joint venture between me and a production company called 0.0 Production. They most famously made all the Bourdain shows. Okay, so ZPZ did like Cook's Tour, No Reservations, Parts Unknown. They did those shows. And I knew Christa through ZPZ. I worked with Christa we worked with her as a food stylist and otherwise going back to our complete guide projects. Then on the MeatEater Fish and Game Cookbook, Christa and I worked very closely together on that book, and she had such a huge impact on that and then on this. And so when we did the outdoor cookbook together, now you'll see right on the cover with Christa Ruane, because it couldn't be ignored. Like her involvement and input and guidance on working on these books was so major and couldn't be ignored. And so now her name's up on the front because she kicked so much ass at it. Incredible attention to detail. And there's a thing too that she does is like, a lot of times when you make something, you just make it. Earlier I mentioned that last night I made broccoli with like sesame oil and sesame seeds. I made seared cobia with like this little Cajun spice on it, right? I made a French dish called iceberg lettuce with ranch dressing. And when you're doing that, you're just making things.
Right.
So at some point, you have these preparations that you do, but you need to explain to someone how they can do it in a way that is replicable. Right. So part of the expertise of someone like Christa is to be able to take a thing that you're making, but you just don't quite know how you've made it, or you've never made it the same way twice. You know, like sometimes if you make a dish, like if you make braised venison shoulder, so one day you make it and you're like, man, I wish I remember what I did because that was phenomenal.
Right.
Or you make it and you're like, I should have written down what I did because that wasn't as good as when I normally make it. Well, Christa finds a way to capture the best version in a replicable fashion so that someone who's not in watching you can go have good luck doing it. So we'll spend a lot of time talking about we'll talk about like things I like to do, things I'm curious to do. We'll do it together, and then she'll find a way to really capture it in a systematic, replicable form. Because making recipes meant to be picked up by a stranger thousands of miles away.
It's a very different thing.
And executed to perfection, that's like a skill set.
Yeah.
Right? It's how you deal with quantities, how you deal with substitutions, how you deal with just the formatting. So it's sort of a language that we've all learned to read through a lifetime of reading recipes. Like, that's not by accident.
Right.
That's intentional, and that's her skill set. And it also, she's just a great cook.
And how long have you been working on this cookbook?
Years.
Yeah.
I'm not joking, years. Collecting images, perfecting things. We've been working on it for a long, long time.
Katie asked me to prompt you with COVID to remind you that there was some part of this.
Oh, what am I saying? We did, yeah. She prompted you to ask that?
Yeah, and I was trying to do it in a
we had a
subtle
bunch
way.
of stuff get all messed up.
Trying to get it organically.
We had a bunch of stuff get all messed up during COVID, and then we had to do cookbook photo. We had to do some of our photo shoots. We had to use COVID protocol, and it was fire season, so we had to have firemen there. And the firemen wound up being great. The firemen get credit in here.
Oh, good.
Because we're doing a lot of like big fire cooking. So they'd wind up helping, be like, hey, taste that, see if you like it. Yeah, they never had to put any fires out.
Can you tell me what unique message or approach you explore in this book that you haven't in previous ones? How have you changed since your last cookbook? Can you share how your growth as a person is reflected in this new work?
You've asked a lot of things there. Let me try to take them off in bite-sized pieces. I have changed. My cooking, my relationship to cooking was changed a lot by having kids. Because I used to be able to spend a lot more time on a nightly basis making dinner prior to having kids. Because I would, if I was working, that meant I was just writing. And if I was writing, I'd get sick of it. You know, you'd start in the morning, and by 4 o'clock, I was sick of it. And then at a time, my wife worked very late. You know, she wouldn't come home from work till 9 at night, 10 at night.
Yeah.
Which would mean like I had 6 hours to make dinner. So I would do a lot of that kind of stuff. Having kids changed me as a person because there's a punctuality.
Right.
Like, we like to have them in bed earlier than earlier than our old dinner time. Right? It just changed. Yeah. It changed cooking. That wouldn't be reflected in the books so much, but I think what is reflected in the books that makes them different than a lot of cookbooks is we talk a lot about methods and strategies, okay? Meaning, I could come and give you 100 recipes, and so this cookbook has about 100 recipes, meaning 100 detailed blank tablespoons of this, blank cups of that, cooked for this long at this temp, like recipes, okay? It has 100 recipes, but it has a ton of sort of methods, strategies, thoughts, to the point where some of the things in the book aren't captured as recipes. They're more like explained as inspiration, strategies. Like
that you can repurpose.
Yeah, it'd be like, here's a way you can do things. Like, you can take stuff, you can dig a big hole in the ground and get a big ripper going in there, a big fire, get a big ripper going with a bunch of rocks and bury stuff under the ground.
Yeah.
And then let it sit 6 hours, 12 hours, 20 hours, whatever, and cook it under the ground. And then it's really hard to say, and talking about that type of thing, it's hard to go like, oh, and don't forget 3.5 teaspoons. Right. It's just different because it's strategy and method. So we spend a lot of time on strategy and method and balance that with recipes. So this book is different in that way, where it's like it opens your mind, opens your eyes to all these things that can be done. Meaning you can cook things on a heated rock.
Yeah.
Or if you're cooking things on a heated rock, don't grab a rock out of a lake or river because it's got a ton of water in it. And when that water gets hot, it's going to blast you and all your friends in the face with hot rock fragments. That is not part of a recipe. That's part of methodology, strategy. Yeah, like why certain woods do certain things, how to get a good fire going more consistently, right? Like it's a lot of, it's life skill as much as recipe.
I think we should remind viewers at this point, once again, that you can get a signed copy of the new MeatEater Outdoor Cookbook.
Wild game recipes for the grill, smoker, camp stove, and campfire. From the backyard to the backcountry.
At signedoutdoorcookbook.com. That's signedoutdoorcookbook.com. Now, we're going to get to the reason why we're all here today.
The story I've never told.
And that is to hear the story you've never told.
Here it is. And I thought about this story a great deal. And I thought about how it actually is a food story, if you hear me out. You went to college, you're a college man. You went all the way to get your PhD.
Too much.
Yeah, too much.
Some might say too much.
Yeah, I did too much myself. I went to graduate school. And if you're a college person, you know the feeling of when you, through those years that you go from house to house to house to house to house. And so it winds up being, you remember a house, there's just some like fleeting glimpse about it.
Yeah.
For instance, we rented a house for a while in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, and the tub leaked real bad. And no amount of cajoling the landlord was going to get him to rectify the leaky tub. And I went and bought a gallon of roofing tar. And I caulked the tub in black roofing tar, which held real tight.
Yeah.
But
is that code?
The tar was so slow to dry that anytime you set your shampoo bottle around, it'd like leave tar rings all over. But the landlord had been so bad that he couldn't even complain. There's nothing, if someone took a shower, it was raining in the living room. So anyways, when I think of that house, I don't remember the address. I'd have a hard time taking you to it now, but I just remember caulking that sucker with roofing tar. The house I'm going to tell you a story about, I remember, because a couple reasons. There was no garden, and everywhere I've always gone, and this is the truth. Anywhere I go, I make a garden. This was in Missoula, Montana, on Pine Street. Rented this house, no garden. And in fact, the yard is nothing but rock. It wasn't grass, it was rock. River cobbles. Okay? I took out, like, you know how you got river cobbles this big and around them is dirt?
Yeah.
But it's just river cobbles? I just started removing river cobbles and wiping the dirt off them. By the time I had that much topsoil, you were in a hole in the ground that was over knee deep. You stepped down into the garden because I had thrown all the rocks out, and I had a pile of rocks like the size of a small car. Yeah. And that was the garden bed. I had these two hippie kids for neighbors, and they were trying to figure out how to tan their own deer skins. So that was going on in my life. And the other thing going on in my life at that time is I got a black bear, and I got the test results back, and it was trichinosis positive. But I didn't want to throw it out, so I got a meat thermometer. I remember me and my roommate ate, over a little bit of time there, we ate, besides the whole roasts, loin and back leg roast, we ate 87 pounds of ground meat. And we were very careful with our meat thermometer. Yeah. And I went out, because I knew I didn't want to get trichinosis, which I later contracted anyway, but not from that bear.
You could have just gotten it over with.
But I went and got a meat thermometer, which I had never used a meat thermometer. Yeah. And what I was surprised by was how hot everything I made was. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'd be like, well, I didn't need a meat thermometer. I mean, that thing's plenty fine. Right. You know? That was the thing that surprised me most. Not that I needed to cook things more, it was just that I was already getting them pretty good. Yeah. because you probably remember this too from being a college kid moving around a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Remember how you'd sign leases,
Mm-hmm.
and then you'd want to get a new place, and it'd be hard because they'd want you to sign a lease,
Right.
and so you always had to try to balance, like, how do you end one lease?
Yeah.
Well, this place comes up that's so sweet, so much better than our old place, that we're like willing to double rent, which is not something you'd normally want to do.
Commitment.
My roommate was named Jay. He, you could find him. I don't know how to tell you his last name. Not that I'm trying to hide anything about him. Name was Jay. At the time, he was a fly tyer.
Mm-hmm.
He'd tie flies for the Grizzly Hackle, whoever would buy the flies. He was a graduate student. He went on to become like a very well-known fly fishing writer. Jay and I are living in this house. And we're on the upstairs and there's a downstairs. And for a while, I was a kid and his girlfriend, and he was refurbishing an Indian motorcycle. And then it became this other dude that I didn't really know that well, and his girlfriend. And we were on the upstairs. The sweet house comes up over on Orange Street, off Orange Street. And we had to do the double rent.
Yeah.
Okay? Because you can't get out of the thing. So we're like, in the long run, this is a less expensive, better house. Much bigger party house, much more run down. This place is run down, not as bad as that place. So we wanted to move into the more run down, more party place. So we have to pay, first month, we have to pay rent there.
Yeah. Security deposit.
Security deposit and rent. I remember that landlord one time came to a party at our house, and he said, I'm quoting him. He said, I got a joint in one pocket and an eviction notice in the other. Let's see how it goes. I thought it was funny. So we're renting that house and we're renting this house. We mostly move out of house A. You following me?
Yeah, yeah.
Mostly move out of house A. But there's still some stuff there. His fly tying bench, Jay's fly tying bench, is in house A, and he was doing this is the dumbest thing in the world. He's doing his graduate, whatever, what do you call it when you're
Thesis?
finishing grad school? On James Joyce. It's like on whatever the hell, one of his books, Not the Dubliners, like one of the big ones, big thick bad boys. So he's got all these James Joyce books laying around, and the fly tying bench. And I got some junk there I haven't moved out.
Yeah.
And I have moved a bunch of stuff out. I remember one of the things I moved out of there, thankfully, is I had a banana tree. And one time I was sick, and I remember digging a hole down in that banana tree and vomiting down into that banana tree and covering it back up with dirt, and never needed to address the situation. That I moved, a lot of stuff I moved. About the 10th of the month, house A burns to the ground. Okay? Because downstairs, the fire department, when a house burns down, they want to know what happened.
Oh, yeah.
The fire department comes in and they determined that house burnt down because of a wiring issue in the bathroom. Wiring.
Yeah.
She had a hair curler or whatever the hell, hair dryer plugged in. Not the appliance.
Yeah.
The wiring in the house. And it turns out the house wasn't properly insured. And it turns out the house was owned by the rental agency's owner's kid. So here's the rental agency. It's run by this woman. Her kid owns the house.
Right.
He doesn't have it insured. It burns down. We're living in house B.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, I wait a respectful period of time, and I go down to house A, and I was like, I need my 20 days of rent back.
Yeah.
And they go, well, you weren't living there anyway. And I said, that has nothing to do with you. It's none of your business.
Yeah.
I could be away, whatever.
I leased
I'm
it
renting
for
the house. If I wanted to
month
go
or
there,
whatever.
if I got in a fight with my roommate and I wanted to go to my
Loss of
house,
use.
it's like, it's my house. It's like, and we did have stuff there, and it's none of your business. It's like, your house that I was renting is gone.
Yeah.
I
was renting a house from you. It's no longer here.
It's not there anymore. It simply is gone.
Yeah.
I want my money back.
There's been a breach of contract because there's no house anymore.
Won't give my money back. I do all this kind of stuff. I eventually go down to the courthouse. I can't remember exactly how it went, but I go down to the courthouse. And I'm like, how do you take someone to small claims court? Because here's what happened. And the first thing you got to do is send them a letter, certified mail.
Yeah.
Explaining your gripe. So I lay it out. I'm like, and I went down to the fire department and got the fire report.
Oh, that's good.
I put the fire report in there. I'm like, this house burnt down. It was improperly wired. I was renting it, and I had 20 days of use that I was deprived of by it burning down.
Yeah.
So again, I want my rent back. They still won't do it. The amount of time passes where we get to go to small claims court.
Yeah.
And we get into small claims court, and there's like the judge person sitting there, and I get to go first. And she was not prepared for how prepared I was. So I got like everything, dude. I got the fire report, I got all these leases and pay stubs, you know, and like never been late for rent, on and on and on. Rented it for whatever, 18 months. Never violated the terms of my thing. Photos, okay, like the bathtub, the fire guy's trying to put the fire out through the bathtub out the door. I got pictures of everything.
You just went full law and
A
order
full
on
dossier,
it.
dude. I was like OJ's dream team. And I get done with my spiel, and the landlord is so overwhelmed, she decides not to make her move and decides to assume a posture of not understanding why she was there today. Oh.
That's what this is about?
Oh, I'm sorry. But she had gotten the certified mail. And she had some stuff that she chose not to present. Then, here's what gave me faith in America.
Yeah.
The judge turned to her and just,
Justice.
yeah. They're like, oh yeah, every month that check comes in, no problem cashing that check. Then the minute there's a problem, I mean, laid into that landlord.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful.
Got my money and walked out of there. Proud to be an American.
In a college town, that should get you like a parade, sticking it to a landlord.
And my old man once took American Motors to court. And over a Jeep Grand Cherokee, I can't remember the issue. And he took them to small claims court in Muskegon County, Michigan. And they sent a lawyer. And when my dad got up there to do his deal, years before me, my dad gets up there to do his deal, and they made the wrong move because you know what, the judge ripped into them, pointing out they spent more money to send you than it would have cost to pay the guy the money, and read them the riot act.
So you guys, you're two.
This runs in the family.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, don't mess with us. You'll be in small
Pretty
claims
decent
court.
record in small claims court.
Is that pretty much how I told you before, Steph? Yeah.
Nicely done.
I never wrote it in no book. I can tell you that. That'd be a long book.
So that's the first time this has been told publicly.
Once again, signed copies of the MeatEater Outdoor Cookbook. Tell them, Randall.
SignedOutdoorCookbook.com. That's SignedOutdoorCookbook.com.
From the backyard to the backcountry, wild game recipes for the grill, smoker, camp stove, and campfire. Everything you wanted to know from the Ice Age to present about how to cook crazy stuff outdoors. And just regular stuff. Even burgers.
Even burgers.
And hot dogs. From the Ice Age to Americana.
Thanks for your time today, Steve.
Thank you, Randall.